Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the breakfast show, Trading Idea with SMARTRobie. And we are here with you again after the mid-holiday that the stock exchange has, which is the Vesak Day. And I do hope that you have rested and stay alert and stay well too amid the increasing cases of COVID-19. And I don't like to remind everybody, it is situation will be very, very challenging going forward. I hope that you were able to register for your vaccine too, and I did had my AstraZeneca vaccine earlier in this week at the PWTC World Trade Center, and the whole experience was very, very enjoyable. It was a short wait from the time that I walk in after the observation period. It was only about an hour, depending where you are. I did hear from a friend who did it in Shah Alam, and it was even shorter with it, maybe because my friend is a senior citizen. That's right. So I do hope that those of you who have the vaccine stay safe, and those of you who have not should learn about maybe other alternatives to protect yourself, and maybe stay at home to protect it. That's all we can do, considering how we need to manage this situation that we have among the COVID-19. So that's so much on my update. Let's take a look what we have for you this morning in our breakfast show. That's right. So for the breakfast show this morning in here, we're still doing our what we call iPad giveaway campaign, and we already have some very good best trade idea from SMARTRobie, and they are submitting, and you can see just on top of me here for Mei Hui for the first submission in here. And I do hope that we'll see more people getting our SMARTRobie Grab $50 voucher. Even though you don't win, you still get that, and of course you have a chance to win that iPad, very beautiful iPad. We are ready to give away sometime in end of this campaign, so check it out in there. Of course, do check out the mail notification from SMARTRobie. That's right. So let's look at what we have for you. Today is Friday. That's right. It's a pretty fast weekend already. We're coming to the weekend in here, and the market this morning, let's take a look at it. And in our market headline roundup here, so far, let's look at our market this morning, and you can see the KLCI market so far hasn't been that great. You can see definitely we are down 10 points. That's right, 1583. And again, going back to change to a wider screen here, right? So you can see from a chart standpoint, let me just blow this up. We are still pretty much in a downtrend. You can see that the red pentagon followed by the yellow trend zone. But we did have, guess what? We have a green pentagon. That's right. Finally, a green pentagon. That also tell you the signal are back, and the market should be turning bullish. Maybe, right? But again, it could also mean we are in a sideways market. Support at 1560 that you see on the right hand side. Hit that support, bouncing back to 1620. Of course, from a technical side, the breakout from 1620 will provide us the market to go higher. What do you think? Do you think our market can go higher? But definitely in the last couple of days, we have seen the banking stock coming out with a slew of very good profits, so that is holding up our market. And don't forget, I always said that before, the banking stock is about 30% of our KLCI, and right now you can see the KLCI in here, it's holding that level. So as long as the banking support will be supported, we are not there, but to break above the 1620 required, no doubt. You can see that it is turning green pentagon right now, so that means the market is going to be bullish going forward in here. And immediately after the big nice line change buy in here, we get into another sell-off this morning. I don't know whether we are still down 10 points. Let's see whether this market will recover. Something very positive for that matter here. And let's turn on to our next news here. All right, so our next news is no other than Rakuten analyst cuts the KLCI remain to be bullish. Now it did had the benchmark much earlier. Of course, you can look at the notes here. Previously was on 1870. Now if you look at our market right now, you can see what do you think? We are at, on top here is 1583 to 1870. My God, that is almost another 190 points up, which is almost a 10%. Now, the last time we ever went up 10% was a long time ago, and no doubt you and me will realize, if you've been following enough for this show, you will know that, to get to the 1,700 level will take some time, but they're basing it on 14 times PE on the calendar there, and I think that that can be really pricey too. Now, with the MCO 3.0, as I said before, those who've been following it, as it continued to worsen, and let's not hope today we get another high target. And this is something that I predicted way back a couple of weeks ago in some of my talks of the less restriction during the Hari Raya, and we all know Hari Raya was on the 14th and 15th, and if you add about 8 to 10 days, this is where we are, the number of cases happening in there, so we just need to manage this out of the context that we are talking about, but we do the best that we can. All right, so let's go on to our next news. Now, so what we have seen with the continued rollout of Perhatian and a lot of the bantuan that given out to SME and also to a lot of Malaysian in here, our country are getting more into debt. Now, you all also know previously we have issued a lot of sukuk debts in here, and no doubt our deficit target has moved up higher. Now, in the previous Pakatan Harapan government, going back to the news to 2019, the finance minister at that time, Mr. Lim Guan Eng, did say that they are trying to target 3% or 3.3%. Now it's almost double to 6% in here. No doubt you may see this is still a small number, but it does still falls under the statutory federal government level of 60%. Now, previously it was about 55%. They did have the parliament level to 60%. Now, going forward, I do think this 60% will go to 65 and 70, just pretty much like any democratic country, like even US, they will carry more and more debts. It's no different from Malaysia. Do you agree to what I've just said in here? Of course, these things sounds very, very bad. The best we could do is probably just manage our money in here and do it better in here. So a lot of the news that continue to come out will be quite challenging going forward. All right, let's move on to something also along the line of the so-called news due to the special audit in here by Serbadk. Now, Serbadk had a special audit concerning about the financial accounts, and that has also caused one of their subsidiary, I believe, K-Power and Sarawak Consolidation Industry did take a hit about 14 to 18% in here. Serbadk, if you look at the chart wise, let's take a look at the chart wise, switching to wider here, SER, it already exhibit debt sometime far back. At that time, it of course Robie fundamentally will not able to pick it up. That is why you need a chart. Right now, fundamentally, if you look for it, this is still a high rated chart in here, but as way back to, let me just pick this up, 21st of March, the market dropped. Even before mid-March, someone know something before this news comes out. As I said before, from the theme of smart money, is this by chance or is it by accident? What do you think? Let me know, type inside there on Serbadk. So if you look at this, the chart broke down somewhere in March, and only this news after we see that leveling of smart money distributing in here, probably they're able to distribute out in here, that we see this kind of news in here, right? So that's why we always say, in order to buy something, you need to wait for the green pentagon, and definitely one of the green pentagon has initiated today is one of the stocks we will talk about later in a couple of story behind. So on this note, let's take a look at K-Power. Okay, K-Power, and we hit that K-Power in there, and you can see stock chart, and also, right, K-Power broken debt earlier this May. And since then, it has broke through to 150, and because of this news, it did price in. But we do see climatic volume right now. So usually we see a climatic volume, the market will rest. Now this is very similar to the chart setup that we've seen also for Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin has a big drop after the Chinese regulator in that, but we'll keep that for another time here. Now let's take a look at the live stock prices for K-Power. Continue to drop. Goodness, another 7% in here. And I do think this news of Serbadk going to K-Power and also Sarawak consolidated it is. So what's going to happen to these stocks will still depend on the news. The sooner the news, sort of come out fully, the better it is. As it continue to leak bar by bar, day by day, and you will see the market drop. But we need to see climatic volume to see the kind of arrest. Now I do hope that those of you who have K-Power would need to look back to your plan, whether it is a trading stock or it's an investment stock. And definitely when it comes to investment stocks, you need to take a look at the fundamentals. Will it continue or not? Or if it's a trading stock, of course, you can see up here breaking the ATR stop loss, right, on the 10th of May would have prevented more losses. Of course, if you look at that, you can see up here the Pentagon fact on the top here. Pentagon fact, K-Power is a possibility of minus 26% since the last Pentagon at 196 4th of May. And if you would have done something, you would have avoided this. So this is another good example how SMARTRobie chart are able to avoid many of our users some sort of disaster. A pretty good case study going forward. Now let's move on to our next news. Now next news in here will be the better setup in terms of chart. Let's take a look at it. It's DNEX. Now this is a news of DNEX. Again, let's look at DNEX. And the whole point is to highlight the news, bad news, just now from Serbadk, and another good news. All right, so this is a very good case, and you can see here what possibly tells you this market was up 8%. I'm sure this morning is up. I haven't seen it yet. About Foxconn. Now Foxconn and DNEX did bid for the so-called for the Cetera, one of the chip makers in here. So the story falls on that line. They lost it, and being Foxconn very cash rich and tied to Apple, they wanted to get a stake of it. So DNEX rose as much as 13% yesterday, all right, and giving a valuation almost close to $2 billion. Okay, let's look at DNEX this morning in here and see where it is. Yes, it's only up 0.6, okay, 0.6 in here, but definitely you have seen a green pentagon. Now, would that valid a buying? Now, from a look of it, the chart looks pretty decent. You have a one bar up, a pullback, and only on the second line change that you see on the right hand side, the green pentagon is here. So right now you would probably see the news is going to be priced in, and maybe going forward, right, if you see a good setup, right, maybe you want to go in. But definitely let's look at the fundamentals of DNEX. It's not going to be cheap, and you can see here it is still loss making. You see minus 638% in here. So sometimes you need to scratch your head. Is this a fundamental stock or is this a trading stock? Right now it's definitely a trading stock coming up in a nice base, but there is very little edge in terms of the news as well as the chart. Yes, the news is already out. In order to Foxconn to go high, in order to DNEX to go higher, there has to be more and more better news. This is just merely talking about it. They are just talking about it, right? In talks. But if the talks fail, it can come down. So a lot of the element of surprise has already been priced in. Now going forward, whether DNEX is going to be successful or not. All right. So this is something that the reader and the audience who is listening now, whether you want to use chart, using this news to what we call speculate on the presence of it in here. Something nice, interesting to see off. All right, let's move on to our next news. Now, our next news here will be falling on the RHB. As I said before, the banking stock continue to do well in here. Let's look at RHB. Switching to a wider chart here. RHB Bank, hit that one. And let's look at the stock chart and stock comment. And you can see RHB early on has a green pentagon, and only yesterday fall a lot. They are supposed they were expecting a marginal decrease in the earnings. Instead, the net profit is up. I think this morning should be up. Yep, it's up only 1.2%. So market is reacting well. So the news talks about the revenue for the quarter were lower right now due to the COVID-19, 9.6% lower than the previous quarter. But the EPS earnings raised up to 16 cents. So they were able to do some cost cutting in here. But in every aspect, when we talk about revenue for a company, we want to see revenue grow and also expansion of earnings. The expansion of earnings, that tells you that management is doing good things to increase the efficiency of the market. Now, the revenue expansion, that tells you that the pie is growing, the market is recovering, they are taking market share. So revenue, earnings has two distinctions. So something that you will learn today by just listening to this point. So sometimes people kind of scratch their head. What's the difference with earnings and what's the difference with revenue? Of course, if you have accounting background, you will know revenue minus cost of goods is likely to be gross profit. Of course, you less a lot of other expenses, then you get down to your profit before tax. And when you put in the tax, then you get net profit, right? So that is a quick run on the balance sheet statement in here. All right, let's move on to another news, which is the precious metal. Now, we do know that all the metals are being going well. Now, those of you who have trading view, you should type X, okay? X on the trading view, which is a US stock, points to steel, and probably that would show you the chart in trading view continue to move higher and so forth. Now, right now, precious metal continued to soar very high in here, up to 2,400 US dollar for the last 3 months. Net profit, all right, definitely has surged. In here, revenue has rose almost additional 200 million in here, and they are declaring a 0.75%. Let's look at precious metal this morning, P metal. Okay, and precious metal, let's look at the stock chart and stock comment, switching to a wider chart here. Right. So you can see, just wait for the chart to appear. Okay, there you go. Now, like it or not, precious metal has came down, has a nice spring here, and probably reacting to this. Of course, there was a big sell-off on the steel stock due to the market going higher, and again, inflation, which you usually talk about in the US context, has also rises due to the rise of the commodity like metals, timber, and also oil. So in here, resistance you can see is definitely 5 ringgit 40 cents, and let's take a look at the live prices right now, and it is just down slightly, minus 0.6% in here. Now, going forward, precious metal, it's not cheap. If you look at the fundamental and longer run, it continued to move higher, all right, and I do have precious metal in my holdings too. Now, let's move over to the US side. Now, let's look at the US side in here. And last week, if you all can recall from the last Friday, that we said that US Dow Jones remain intact. It will retest the minor high 34.4 on some catalysts, right? And the catalyst is here, which is the Biden intent to propose the $6 trillion US budget. That is huge. The question is, how is intent to fund it? And this will be on this Friday, which is, and see how is he going to get the GOP, which is the Republican, to agree to that, building infrastructures. And in a way, that also drive a lot of the infrastructure projects in US, which tied to what I've just talked about, rises in steel, rises in timber, because you need to build all those in the infrastructure product. So that's how usually the market works before this kind of news comes out. And it also mean, you can see right now, just now, precious metal, it hit a high at 5 ringgit 40 cents because good news is already here, right? And people are taking profit. So it's why sometimes it's good to move ahead before you get some sort of the news. All right, so that's the prognosis that we have. And of course, we continue to flesh out our Pentagon guided trading in here. Definitely today, with the green Pentagon that we see on the KLSE chart, we are ready to move into the market. Now, of course, what you've seen so far on the 106% return is a back tested in here, going back to 35,000 account, and for the year 2020 so far we have revised. We have took a couple of small losses in here. Our win rates were down, but we are still up for the portfolio of 13.3% versus a -3% for KLSE. And this is real time, real money trading to share with our friends and our audience in here how the trading of SMARTRobie works. All right, and of course the leaderboard of our past advanced trade idea in here has and do take note, the premium alert are for usually for the advanced people in here. If you want to trade this is a fairly short burst movement kind of stock. So you can see we do have some past leaderboard in here, and of course last week, right, the 21st last week, 21st of May, we have a couple of trade idea from our advanced trade idea, which is the premium alert. And the premium alert, switching to a wider chart here, you could see going back to here, that's right, and this is the premium alert that you see here. So we do have a couple of trades, but let's look at the chart setup right now. All right, let me just bring out the charts here. Now, as I said before, those of you who wish to subscribe to our package, our plugin package that's on TradingView in here, you can check out the information that we have on the right hand side, or there's a number you can see right below on the scrolling bar here. All right, and that's a number you can contact to find out more information about our plugin. Now, definitely if you look at what we have earlier on was Granflo. Granflo is this chart here, and Granflo was selected on the 21st, which is that bar. It did hit high, and let's take a look at it. Switching to hourly chart. Okay, now you look at the hourly chart, that was at 9 o'clock here. 10 o'clock we were somewhere around here. Okay, all right, and you turn that one up and go to price. Let's say we were somewhere around here, and oh, okay, and look at that, right? It was possible to make a 12% return. And like it or not, those of you who want to trade a shorter time frame intraday, this is definitely a good opportunity to be able to take a 10%. All right, a 10% in here. And if the trade don't work, you need to get out, right, despite the market being. So that's a pretty good one. Of course, right now is a different situation in here. That was last week. Let's take a look at what we have for you on the today on the later side. Now the next one is TFWong. Okay, let's look at TFWong. So TFWong is did range bound. Okay, on the 21st, we are 21st here. So 21st 10 p.m. around this time last week. Okay, and if you were to pull this, right, only a 1%. So TFWong hasn't run yet, not like Granflo. All right, so take note of it. It does this, it make a fast movement in here. So if the stock doesn't move, then it's time to move on. Now that is one of the advocate way of trading this so-called hourly chart for intraday. Something that to share with you today. All right, let's move on to our next segment in here is on the premium alert for 28th of May, episode 74. It's Cap and Pharma. That's right. Now, if you look at first one, let's look at Pharma. Of course, I want to switch to a daily chart. Now, Pharma, it's very, very hot because of the news that you all hear. The Sinovac, that's right. So you can see this is very classic. It break out on the 24th of May, being able to roll out the Sinovac. And guess what? A lot of news that is coming out from the media in US, like The Guardian. I read one article about how effective is Sinovac, which is the and the Chinese so-called vaccine, which is going to be bottled by Pharma. I think they're getting a fat deal in this. So you can see that way back. And if you look at it, let me just refresh this to get a better chart. Somewhere, of course, Green Pentagon started much early. There was a long period accumulation, and not until this big jump here that we see at 380, the market started to move up. So right now, it is a trading idea of the premium alert right now, and let's see whether how much high can you go. If you're targeting maybe a 10%, the odds could be in your side. But if you don't like this chart in here, you can opt to stay out. And let's look at the next one in here, which is CAP. Okay, CAP, CAB. So CAB again, very classic, goes up, pull back again, nice pullback in here. You could see low volume, have a nice spring breakout, and cap, I believe it's one of those poultry, chicken, ayam, and it's coming back. This is the daily chart in here, going to retest back the old high, and it's one of the nicer chart, goes up, pull back a bit, going up in here. Let's take a look next week when we come back and look at the premium alert. So those are the two trade ideas that we have for this Friday, episode 74 in here, and we're going to move on to the other section. All right. Now, of course, what we have shown before earlier on, you're always looking at the market. Now, do expect the temporary pullback that we've seen in here, and the first line change for cap did came out on the around the 20th of May, and that's why we see the pullback, and then it'll break back up again, especially right now if the market is bearish. Now, do take note, our KLCI has turned green pentagon. Okay. Now, of course, those of you who are first time in here, you can check out our QR code in here and watch our tutorial to be affirmed of the sign of strength and sign of weakness. All right. Of course, next week, all right, next Wednesday, and we will be continuing our live FB. So do share this next talk in here, what to invest in the stock market with 10,000 ringgit or lower. So we'll be looking at what we call the small account trading and investing. Very interesting topic. Those of you who want to start off, especially your children or your spouses who are new and wanted to follow our SMARTRobie, and you want to use some sort of the trade idea in here, a good point to start, and definitely something that you can watch out for. Of course, right now we're going to be turning our attention to the what we call our stock review, and thank you to our top fans who's been regularly sharing this video and also some of our posts in here, and also our top reviewer in Google Play Store. Now, if you have not reviewed our Facebook, Google, and also our Apple Store, do review it if you think we've done a good job in our show and our apps to help you to clear a path to hitting your financial goal. All right, so let's take a look at some of the stocks that you may have. And we're going to start right now and switching back to daily chart in here. Okay, we got DNEX. I think I talked about DNEX earlier on, right? And we have N to N. Okay, let's take N to N. Yes, N to N already turned green pentagon in here, but take note of the resistance now. The 86. Okay, the 86, what we call the old high, that will be the resistance that it is trying to break. Now, if it does break, it will be a third time breakout. So again, end to end, riding on a positive kind of thing. But if you look back, all this while, end to end has never go past the 90 cents unless some big guys is going to come in and take this to the next level. And usually those news is not going to come. It will break, then news come, isn't it? Especially those of you who have been following me regularly on the smart money that it is. Now we also have the Jessica wanted to look at MFSB. Now MFSB is one of those stocks which are being heavily promoted by a lot of bloggers out there, and you can see this one was a huge line change in here. It is like it is. Having said that, okay, let's look at MFSB for the fundamental reason. For the fundamental reason is pretty good. The ratings. Let's look at the ratings here. Okay, let's look at the chart wise, and then we saw that big line change. And let's look at the stock fundamentals there. Now we do take note, okay? Do take note. The ratings is about 7. Okay, the 7. Let me just take this out of the way first. Okay, gotta wait for the chart to come back. So the rating for the fundamental is rated out 7. So that tells you why it is one of the good fundamental stocks. Having said that, let me just switch that out again. And right now, if you want to go long on this stocks in here, follow the trading plan. All right, I think after a good setup, this is good. But then again, remember, when someone promotes this regularly on a blog, we should take note of it too. Okay, there you go. And that was last week. You can see this chart is back here, and this is a nice green pentagon. Okay, so let's look at other stocks that I may have here. Going over this side here. Okay, Emulous. Okay, you're looking at Emulous right now. Now Emulous, no green pentagon yet, nothing of a sort. So just put your hands behind and just wait. Now, of course, if you have this stock, if you break below the ATR stop loss, what should you do? As I said before, you should do something. Okay, so that is for Jetta, and thank you for being a top fans, and do share this in our in your FB timeline in here. All right, let's see any more stock here that we have. Right, we'll take a few more. Okay, if there is no, we should close our session today in here. And thank you for coming. And of course, do share our Telegram chat room with your friends and colleagues who are interested to join us and find out more information about educational tips and stock trading educational ideas, so that will help you in your. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel so you will not miss out any of our stories. So subscribe. And of course, our iPad giveaway continue to be something that will cheer you up. Submit your best stock trade from SMARTRobie, as some of our existing users has benefited in here, like Mei Hui. There's another one here, and another one, a very good comment from the SMARTRobie user. All right, and thank you a lot, and thank you very much, and do join our Telegram chat room if you have not do so. And thank you for spending your precious morning with me. I appreciate it. Bye bye, and I'll see you next Monday in our breakfast show. Bye bye.